So, grandparents, awesome people, aren't they? Hi, I am Tulip. So, for my grandparents, whenever they had a fight, they went on a hunger strike. It was back late in the 60s, and I lived with my grandparents in a remote village of Bangladesh. Grandfather was most of the time out of the house during the day. So, whenever my grandparents had a fight, it began at night. They would start with the blame games, with moderate voice, climb up to louder, and then find out, God knows from where, all the words of how unstable the other was, how unreasonable the other was, and go louder and louder to explode. It was something similar to the summer storms that hit our cottage, that began with gusty winds and broke into thunders. And just like the storms that are followed by calmness, after one point they would fall silent and go to two separate rooms and lie down, breathing in and out. Meanwhile, I would sit beside my grandmother on her bed, feeling the heaviness of the moment, watching the candle flames sputter in complete sympathy with me. Hours would go on, and then would come the final drama that I knew would happen again. The cook would come and announce dinner. At that point, my grandmother would go to my grandfather and say, "Dinner is served." He would say, "I'm not eating anything, you go and eat." My grandmother would come back, lie down, breathing again and muttering how unreasonable men were. Then I would hear my grandfather's steps, very purposeful, and he would come to my grandmother and say, "Dinner is getting cold. Let's eat." And she would retort, "You are hungry? You go and eat." My grandfather would go back, muttering, I couldn't hear, I'm sure it was about how unreasonable women were. So on, back and forth, they would go for hours. At one point, one of them would come and say, "I think Tulip is hungry." And so, finally, they would be in the mood for peace. And they would hold two of my hands and we'd go to eat. Like many life experiences, my grandfather's and grandmother's family sin stuck to my mind and my heart. As I grew up and got married, in the first 10 years of life, I applied this food and denial in a different way. Whenever my husband and I had a quarrel, I would go to the kitchen and cook the best chicken biryani. And as I knew, the scent of the best ghee would strike his stomach, the second brain of the body, and after a while, there he would be in the kitchen door. "What are you cooking?" he would say. "Chicken biryani," I would say, that knowing smile, and there it would be, melted. After 20 years, it seems, the children were teenagers and our disagreements grew more and more. So I cooked less and less chicken biryani. After 30 years, it seems, we are practically strangers. There was nothing to share. The children were out of the home. I remembered my grandparents' hunger strikes, remembered Mahatma Gandhi's hunger strike to drive their points home, to drive opinion home. It was time for me to make a decision. I stopped cooking chicken biryani totally, stopped living in that house at all, and in search of freedom, walked out with goodbye to a 34-year marriage. Thank you.